Hello, hello. This is Ignacy Ciwicek from Portal Games. I'm back.
And Corey Thompson from Dice Tower Now, Dice Tower Dish, and Above Board.
Wow, in the Above Board Studios, I see. And this is the
Yeah.
Podfather of Gaming, Stephen Bonacore. You are listening to Board Games Insider, episode 294. And we're recording this on November 9th, 2023. Board Games Insider is a proud member of the Dice Tower Network. And as I just mentioned, this is episode 294. I can't believe we're approaching 300 episodes. It's absolutely insane, which we might do actually by the end of the year. Tom Vassell was quoted as saying, "You won't make 10 episodes. Therefore, Tom, you are wrong times 30 now." So Tom is notoriously wrong, but now this is pretty big wrong. Don't you agree?
I can't believe you skipped 100 episodes and nobody noticed.
But seriously, so we had this thought, or actually, I'm going to give credit where credit is due. Mary Chevichek, Ignacy's wife, had a wonderful thought to do something special on episode 300. We're thinking of something. We'll get back to you, but hopefully we can pull off a special episode 300 that hopefully you can be involved with as well. Gentlemen, it's always good to see you. Now, Ignacy, tell us what's happening over at Portal Games.
Last time we saw each other was Essen.
I know, it's been a while, right?
Like
been a month
ago. Yep. At Essen, we officially released Imperial Miners. Since then, I can proudly confirm that we released 12 different language editions. So the game is released in Japan, in Korea, in Thailand, in all the different places, France, Spain, Italy, etc. I'm very proud. Proud of my team, proud of the team Armstrong, the designer of the game. The feedback is very positive. This past week, we were one of the very few publishers in Thailand, in Bangkok at Simon Expo. There was a release of Thailand edition of Imperial Miners, and Portal Games was a guest publisher at the show. It's a very long flight, 12 hours flight to Bangkok. So I skipped this.
Oh, I thought you said this. I thought you were going to say you were there. I was so excited to hear it.
But we have people in the company who are not afraid of flying and who like to visit different countries and different cultures and see different conventions. So Greg and Paco, my director of sales and my CEO of the company, went there. In my vlog, I do a vlog every Wednesday on YouTube. So in my vlog, you can see some of the short shootings of how the convention looked like. A couple of very interesting ideas about the show. I would just say one more thing. All booths for the publishers had only demo tables, and the organizer of the convention took in charge all the sales, which is very interesting. So there was one big booth that you can buy games from every vendor at the show, and the vendors had only demo tables, which is pretty unusual, let me say that way. Obviously, when there is not many publishers, you can do it. I guess if there was 50 publishers, it would be impossible to do it. But with this few publishers, it was possible. And of course, for us, publishers from Europe and America, it was so convenient. So we could focus on running demos, and the sales and all the business side was run by the organizers. So
did it work out well? Because actually that model is being investigated by the World Series of Board Gaming, which has a very small exhibitor footprint. So we are thinking about doing something like that. One place, all games are sold, and then everybody demos to their heart's content.
I will have numbers on Monday when Greg is back in the office, but as I saw on the vlog and I saw in the pictures, it worked very well. It was a huge line. So this booth, obviously, because all attendees were buying only from one space, but therefore they were able to pick a couple of games at the same time, buy them all and be very happy. So I think it is very interesting idea for a smaller convention.
I know that Asmodee was doing it at Gen Con, where all of the sales were in one sales-only booth, and all of the associated publishers had their own booths for demoing. So
very cool.
Interesting. For pre-orders and street dates, we have upcoming Cyber Monday in November, November 27th. And to celebrate Cyber Monday and to celebrate Neuroshima Hex, we will have a new army for Neuroshima Hex. It is app exclusive. So if you played in Neuroshima Hex over the years and you know that you are releasing every year one new army at Essen, and now we have additional second army this year. It is called Partisans. It will be released only as an app exclusive because it has a very interesting new mechanism that we were able to code into the app without the game being fiddly. As we board gamers know, sometimes we have a great ideas in terms of the game design, but the components doesn't come with this idea. So with the app, we were able to do a very interesting thing. Just short information: the Partisans is a guerrilla fighting. They do a lot of traps, and you as a player are setting the traps on the board, and they are all hidden. And with the app, it is possible to surprise other player with the traps. So this is interesting stuff from our Protagonist Digital on November 27th. And once again, what happened in the company? We are back from Simon Expo in Bangkok. My team is right now sleeping, but I will talk to them when they wake up. We started a brand new section on our website with free PDF expansions to our games. So you can go to protagonustus.com, go to our web store, and in the web store you will see in the menu free products menu, and there you will find a solo scenario for Imperial Miners, solo scenario for 11, and new stuff is in the design right now. So if you like free goodies, this is from me. It's ready for you.
Cool. Two quick things before we get over to Corey. But number one, I played Imperial Miners again recently on the cruise, on the Spiel at Sea cruise that came back. Cool. Everybody, I taught it to a bunch of people. It was a big hit. So congratulations. Really an excellent game. And number two, since the way that I demo and I help you out all the time, Ignacy, as you have admitted, if you're ever going to another convention like in Thailand, Vietnam, Australia, Singapore, send me. I work very cheap. My bar bill is a little bit expensive, but besides that, I'm very cheap. I don't even fly in business class. If I, just send me over, I'll take care of everything for you. Okay. Okay.
You are on my list right now. You will be my reserve speaker.
Corey, what's going on?
I think this is a dangerous arrangement here. So I actually spent again, I've been traveling nonstop. I spent the past week in Florida. I'm really sorry I didn't get to come and visit, but I was down in the Dice Tower area, an hour and a half, 2 hours away from you.
You're not forgiven. Go ahead.
Not forgiven. Yeah, I know. I hang my head in shame. So Above Board is sponsoring the 12 Games of Christmas with Dice Tower. So we were down for 3 days filming, doing some of the lists. I did a live news thing with the gang. Travis did a bunch of top 10s with them. So it was really fun. Had a good time visiting. Then in 3 days, I'm going to BGG Con, and I'm sorry, 5 days. And then a week after that, I'm going to PAX. So non-stop travel. The other exciting bit, and I can tell you this, in confidence here, especially since it's not going out for a week.
No, nobody will hear this.
Our shark video is scheduled to go out on Monday.
Oh, I've seen the raw footage on that. It's
by the time this airs, that video should be making its rounds.
It's literally unbelievable that you guys did that. That Travis did it, right? You were not part of it. You weren't in the water with the sharks, but it's
amazing what no regard for resources and no common sense can produce.
Well, congratulations on that. And I'll see you at BGGCon and I'll see you at PAX. It's going to be a lot of fun on both of those. Meanwhile, over here at the Podfather of Gaming, The Quad, my BGG show, dropped number 7 with Amanda Panda as our guest host. She's amazing. And we did the best sci-fi games. Everybody picked it and we argued about it. It was a great topic. That's why we didn't give it to you. We wanted you to think harder to do a worse topic.
I had 5-player games.
It was an amazing, and you gave a terrible answer.
Terrible topic.
And I also recorded this week episode 8 with Paul Grogan. That one won't drop until the first week in December, but go check out episode 7 right now on Board Game Geek on the front page. You can find it under announcements, and I won't tell you what we talked about with Paul Grogan, but we argued a lot, as you might expect. I'm going to talk a little bit about streaming, little bit. I found a show that if you don't go out and watch, you're not a gamer. That's right. I'm making that statement. On Netflix, streaming now, a Korean show called The Devil's Plan. Have you guys heard of this?
Absolutely.
It's unbelievably good. It's a reality TV show where they bring in 12 contestants, all young and really pretty, most of them. And they are playing games. Now, the games are not ones we know. There was maybe one of them that I did know, but they are, I don't want to give too much away, but like the first game is and you'll see it in the first episode, so I'm not giving anything away, a hidden trader game. It's absolutely a werewolf mafia variant. So, and they do this again and again and again. And the people who are at the bottom of the pack get thrown in jail. Something might happen in jail. They're eating bread and milk, and the other people are eating lobsters in the main area. It's just so good. It's a gamer's reality TV show. The Devil's Plan on Netflix. You have to watch it. I just turned on the dubbing. It's not great dubbing, but I turned on dubbing versus subtitles. That's the way I like it, but you can pick either one. Fantastic show. Oh, yes, and I'm now home for 2 weeks after my epic 30-day trip that I talked about on the last show. Yeah, 30 days I was away from home. It was absolutely incredible.
Your neighbors are confused, I guess.
We have this running joke with my next door neighbors. They're like, we see you one day a year for Halloween because we always participate in this big block party thing, so which we did again this year. And I posted some photos of it. It was really great. We got home just in time for Halloween. It was a lot of fun. And then, like Corey, I'm off to BGG Con next week. And then I'm hosting for a week. I'm hosting friends here for Friendsgiving, a Thanksgiving with friends that are coming in. It's like but basically half of the D&D group that I play with. Alex Schmidt's coming.
I wasn't invited.
Well, you're not a friend. Alex Schmidt is coming. Julie Ahern and Robert Geislinger are coming. So we're going to have this. So we're going to be not playing D&D here, but we're going to be having Thanksgiving dinner, and we're going to be playing all these other games, which showed up while I was away. I had 4 Kickstarters deliver while I was away. I had to keep texting my neighbor saying, do you mind just putting it in my garage? I'll open my garage remotely for you. And I felt terrible. I owe them a bottle of wine or something like that. But anyway, that's going to be fun.
Kickstarters. That's cute.
Yeah. Well, in the time span of like 3 weeks, 4 Kickstarters. Yep. Okay. I'm sorry. That's nothing compared to you, I guess. Whatever.
While I was in Florida, I had 10.
Well, that just means you spend too much money on games, but that's besides.
It's absolutely true.
Absolutely true. And then at BGG Con, the one thing I'm just going to quickly mention is that I'm going to be playing War of the Ring. I have 4 games scheduled. One's a tentative. I have at least 3 games of War of the Ring scheduled each morning. It's going to be amazing. And my new like kind of passion game, my number 2 game for 2023, Station Fall. Definitely going to be playing that there too. What an amazing game. You want in? Absolutely. Yeah. Just remind me after the show and I'll make sure. Yeah, it plays up to 9 players.
I know.
It's sick, chaotic, crazy fun, right? Like my other number 1 game of the year, which is Thunder Road Vendetta. So awesome stuff. We went a little long there, I believe. Let's get over to the event deck. So, Corey, you put a bunch of things in here, which are very interesting. The first thing is about...
You were whining a little bit that you didn't have any news stories. So,
well, the news guy put no news stories in here. So tell me about the fact that Othello has now been solved. It's considered a solved game now.
Yeah, this is a thing in computer science that a lot of common games will go through the process. And a group out of Cornell, headed by Hiroki Takezawa, has solved the game of Othello. This is actually a very, very, very old game, a public domain game, a variant of Go. And Othello was patented, I believe, in 1972. But people my generation remember the horrible commercials, a minute to learn, a lifetime to master. But from the abstract, it says, the game of Othello is one of the most complex and popular games that has yet to be computationally solved. Othello has roughly 10 octodecillion possible game records, which is 10 to the 58th power, and 10 octillion possible game positions, which is 10 to the 28th power. The challenge of solving Othello, determining the outcome of a game with no mistakes made by either player, has long been a grand challenge in computer science. This paper describes a significant milestone. Othello is now solved, computationally proving the perfect play by both players leads to a draw. Strong Othello software has long been built using heuristically designed search techniques, and solving a game provides a solution which enables the software to play the game perfectly.
Yeah, that actually is a very significant thing. People might not realize, but this is one of the things that AI can do in a good way. They can solve these problems. This is just a game, so this is not exactly the most important use of it, but it can solve these problems that take so much mathematical crunch power that the human brain couldn't do it, and current computers can't do it. But if you create an AI that understands all these rules, it then can solve it for the perfect solution. So this is a significant thing. And we had this little argument right before the show, but which we won't go into now, that chess might be a solved game. And I'm saying it is not a solved game.
I said partially solved.
All right. Well, that doesn't count. Solved, not solved. There's only two states here. All right. What else do you have here, Corey? You also had another very interesting one, and this is about a good friend of ours, Gil Hova, right? Why don't you talk about
this? So Gil Hova is the CEO and founder of Formal Ferret Games. Their most popular titles are The Networks and Wordsy. Gil had a Kickstarter for a game called High Rise, which funded and delivered, and then there was a second Kickstarter for a plastic edition. During the crowdfunding for the plastic edition of High Rise, things went terribly wrong, and the whole industry kind of felt just remorse and dread. And Gil announced in January that he was leaving the gaming industry. But the status of the High Rise Kickstarter was in limbo. People didn't really know what was going on. It was just announced that the High Rise Kickstarter is being taken over by Allplay, who used to be BoardGameTables.com. So Allplay will complete the Ultra Plastic edition of High Rise. There'll be no extra cost to backers. It might take a little longer than expected because they have to do all of the retooling and everything like that. But Allplay will also be publishing those popular titles I mentioned from Formal Ferret. They'll be publishing Wordsy and The Networks, and they'll be available as add-ons to the High Rise Kickstarter. Everybody who's on that Kickstarter will be notified. Allplay is good at this sort of thing, so I suspect this is going to go really well. So all good news for Gil.
Yeah, all good news for Gil, all good news for the backers of that Kickstarter, and all good news for the rest of his catalog, which will hopefully stay in print over time. I think that's sort of the whole thing. It's all going to now be under the control of Allplay, which is a solid company. So hopefully that happens and happens well. The next thing we have is the Tabletop Game Designers Association, which has been created as sort of a union of tabletop game designers in the U.S., and it was started by Jeff Engelstein, Elizabeth Hargrave, and Sen-Fan Lim. And they're having a conference right before BGG-Con. And they're going to be rolling out a series of useful tools for board game designers over time. Corey, do you know more about it?
I don't know more about it. I was really excited to read about this, but I think the really important thing is Jeff Engelstein has been absolutely wonderful to the community of tabletop designers and has been putting out tools and help and papers about it for a very long time now. He's a programmer and an engineer and a designer, and he has all of these helpful programming tools to help check and solve games, to run through iterations, to keep track of stuff. He's just an absolutely amazing guy to be leading this new association, the Tabletop Game Designers Association.
And Ignacy, do you know of the union in Europe called SAS? Do you know about that one? It's similar to this. They're modeling it after that. There's a game designers union that was created in Germany. In fact, Alan Moon was the president of it for a little while. So they're modeling it after that, and they're just going to have resources. It's not a union like you pay dues or anything like that. I mean, I'm sure that there might be something, but it's not a strict thing. But it's going to be so that a game designer, new designer, wants to get he gets a contract and doesn't, or she gets a contract, doesn't know if it's a good contract, it's a bad contract.
Yeah,
so they're going to have templates.
Group.
It's a support group. It's a way of sharing information that essentially should be common, at least as minimums in any game contract. And they'll be publishing these for their people that are going to be part of it. So it's really good. Jeff is an amazing guy, longtime friend of mine, as you know, my co-designer in a game. So I'm very excited to be seeing that they're going to be doing this, and he is doing a lot of givebacks for the community.
Can I make a little short statement?
Yes.
Absolutely full support for what Jeff is doing. But by any chance, please do not suggest that there are some contracts in the industry that are shady, and that you need to have some PDF online to double check if the publisher is giving you some shady contract, because it is not happening. And please fight this conspiracy theory that is in the internet.
That's absolutely true. There's
yes, make it clear. So great that there are such contracts, because there may be aspiring designer who thinks about this career and he wants to understand how this contract looks like, how much money he can do from the game. So this is good for the good education. But please don't put in the lie that you need to compare your contract with something else.
No, it's absolutely not to prevent a conspiracy or to say that there's a lot of bad things, but there are weird clauses that sometimes go into contracts. So if somebody saw that, they have a body of people that they could then go to say, does this make sense to everybody here? And
I know there's a huge variation in contracts. Different publishers have different contracts, and they can vary widely as far as terms and what the definitions mean and things like that. So it's nice to have a support group just to look at some models.
Exactly. So with that, low news week, let's get over to strategy and tactics. All right. So our first question here from Eric Langenbach, who's been a long-term supporter of ours. He's at Logness. Thank you, Eric. For an established publisher like Portal, or whoever any of the hosts might have worked with before, what are the main factors for taking something to Kickstarter instead of straight to retail, and how big is each factor? Example, I know that PR is a big thing when it is crowdfunded, but how big? And does anybody have actual numbers on how much more net profit is there if you go to Kickstarter versus straight to retail? We have talked about this a lot and the benefits of crowdfunding, but Ignacy, why don't you start, since you were mentioned specifically? When do you make that decision? And what is the benefits that you believe Portal Games gets from making that decision?
Yeah, we used historically, we used to go for the Kickstarter with the projects of the game that were very unusual, and we were not sure if it will be interesting for the distributors and for the retailers. So that's why we went for the Kickstarter with a game about the soccer, because it is not super popular theme. That's why we go to the Kickstarter with Pret-a-Porter, which was a game about the fashion. So if we were not super confident if there's market for that, and or at least we were afraid that distributors will think there is no market for that, we went to the crowdfunding to make a proof for the distribution, make a proof for the retailers. Hey, look how many backers was interested in this game. Hey, look, there is a hype for this game. Please order. And then after doing this successful Kickstarter, we had this proof of the hype for the game, and we were able to sell to the distribution. With these years and years of changes in the industry, when the crowdfunding is more and more important, there's more and more companies going through the crowdfunding. For more and more games, we and other independent publishers will go for the crowdfunding. because these two main reasons. First reason, as mentioned in the question, hype marketing PR is very strong with the crowdfunding. You can create a great event and promote your game. And then you have your orders intact, already done by the customers. You don't need to expect distributors to order the game. You don't need to hope for the orders from the distributor. And you already know how much games you want to print. So I would say that the last year and the next upcoming years, we will see and more companies not risking going directly to distribution, because distribution is, you never know how many orders you will get from that.
Right, exactly. I'm gonna emphasize marketing is the number one reason to do it, because you just get so many eyeballs. That's the only place they look for new games is on the crowdfunding platforms, with Kickstarter being the biggest one, of course. But also then for the smallest companies, it's basically the only way they're going to get a game out. They don't have the cash to print a game, so they will get onto a crowdfunding platform, get the money in to print the game, and hopefully become successful enough over time. That's, to me, the best. Do we have an actual empirical profit margin difference? No, but you can just do the math, right? That you'll pay, the publisher gets more money, of course, if they put it there first on the units that they sell on Kickstarter. It's just economics. But if the game, this is a very interesting point that I was thinking, and I want to make this. If the game does well on Kickstarter, the game is going to do better than it would have in distribution. And that's been proven a number of times. Great Kickstarters do great over time in distribution. Marginally funded or unfunded Kickstarters don't do well in distribution. So there's another reason to get that thing, prove the model, prove that there's a demand for it, and then distributors want the game as well.
Yes, so I will not. I will not give the numbers, obviously, but it's exactly. I know how many copies on average I get back orders, pre-orders from the distribution. So if I announce Imperial Miners, I know how much I will sell in the first month of the game, and then I have my numbers, how much distribution is ordering when I had a successful Kickstarter. And as Stephen says, if you had a really successful Kickstarter, the distributor is more likely to look at the game and say, oh, there was 7,000 backers. Very interesting. I will order more. And this is like a mathematical equation. So yes, the Kickstarter is very important these days to get distributors interested in your title.
Very good. Torben, who's a new listener, he says, from Germany. He's at Nazar on BGG. He has a lot of questions. So he broke the rule of the 3 questions, but he didn't win. So I didn't notice, and I'll let him keep his questions in there. So it's okay. So his first question was, how do you feel about sustainable products and designs in board games? Who's responsible for this? Publishers, designers, factories? I heard on the Ludology podcast that a green gaming guide was created to help publishers and designers make the hobby more sustainable. Well, I have not heard that there's any kind of guide, but maybe there is, and that would be interesting to see, of course. But in general, who's responsible for making games sustainable?
From my perspective, we have first customers asking about that, and we were answering such questions about no plastic in games for like 2 or 3 years already. So first you have people asking for that, and there is like a hype about it, a discussion in the internet. And then we publishers ask manufacturers, hey, we see that there is demand, we see people are discussing that, what we can do about it. And then you have the manufacturers coming up with the ideas how they can create the game that is green, that has no plastic inside. And then at some point, 1, 2nd, 3rd, and a 4th company is trying to do that, creating an eco-friendly game, and they see what happens. And when there's a positive hype, when people are buying this game, there's more and more companies following this trend. I would say that we saw this as a couple of games already released in that way. I can confirm that when we talk with manufacturers from China, this topic was discussed. Like they were showing us different solutions, how they pack the cards without the plastic, how they exchange plastic standees into the wooden standees, etc., etc. And I confirm that we as a Portal Games, we are looking into it, and some of our games released next year will be plastic free. So I would say this is like few years process of first customers asking and then the business looking into it, and things are start to move.
And you know,
I
and of
know
course,
I'm
ahead.
a little leery about greenwashing as a concept. There's a lot of companies out there that will market more sustainable, more green as a reason to buy the games, and it may or may not actually be true at the back end. There's definitely been a trend. I'm seeing more and more games, and especially card games, that are coming wrapped in paper. I think Amigo
Yep.
has a line specifically of green card games that are wrapped in paper, no plastic on the outside. The outside of the box isn't wrapped in shrink.
Shrieked, yep.
And there's also the ability to do minor things like not shrink it and just put little tabs on the ends. But you know what? Gamers have complained about that as well. So it's a very difficult thing. And I guarantee everybody listening out there that the hobby board game industry is the least offender of all in this. Sure, plastics in games, but you look at a lot of other industries, every other industry, they're doing a lot more non-green stuff than we are. But of course, as Ignacy said, we're going to look at it. We're going to change things slightly, make things a little bit better over time. That's the way things happen in the world. Small changes over time. We'll get there. We'll get there.
Absolutely.
Torben continues over on Etsy. There are tons of fan-made products to pimp your favorite game, and the Board Game Geek store does provide a significant amount of these on its own. What is your take on board game upgrades? Do you get them yourselves? Did you ever make some for your favorite game?
I love them. I buy them. Most of my games are all pimped out.
Most of your thousands of games are already pimped out.
Yeah, if there's extras, goodies, metal pieces, plastic pieces.
You have too much time on your hands and too much money on your hands. Go ahead.
And I've made my own inserts out of foam core. I have bought blank boards and cards when available for things like Zaya, the space epic game. I've made my own maps. I've made my own ships. I've printed them. I have gone all out. So I'm all in favor of being able to modify the games myself and do all these exciting things. I think it's a great thing.
Ignacy,
From my perspective as a designer,
do you make games, Ignacy?
Yes, I do. I'm so happy when I see that one of my games have these additional components made by somebody, because it means they love it, and if somebody buys it, it means that they love it as well. So now I'm very happy, and when I browse through Instagram, on Pinterest, and I see beats to my games, it makes me happy.
So yeah, it does. Just makes me happy to see them. I do it for any game that I'm going to play a lot, more than once or twice. If I love a game, I'll pimp it, that kind of thing. I've pimped my already pimped out War of the Ring, of course. I've got extra pimping pieces. Quaxaquellenberg. It's like the classic example of the bits that Board Game Geek came up with are so much better than the bits in the game. Not that the bits in the game, they're functional, they're fine, but those plastic
pieces are amazing.
They're so nice, they're so tactile, and they'll shuffle better and stuff like that. So yes, I pimp out the ones that I'm gonna play on a fairly regular basis. Torben continues, considering that the average quality and price of a hobby board game seems to be rising, yes it is, do you see a future in custom board game upgrades, or will the companies themselves take over that field by providing their own cheaper upgrades, or making upgrades irrelevant by raising the quality of the regular game parts? So the question here in general is, where do we see these bits going? Are the publishers going to do more themselves, or just let the secondary market take care of it?
Yes, I prefer third-party companies doing these additional inserts, these additional bits. Like I do games, I do a regular retail edition. This is what I have focused, this is what I have employees to design. And if there are third-party companies who can create this stunning, amazing insert or these stunning, amazing bits, I'm fine with that. Let them earn some money as well. So I don't see me or any other company that does retail editions to go into this new territory for them, hire new employees, learn the craft. Like, no, we don't do it. That is, every business has their focus, and I don't see publishers going into the special bits business.
Yeah, agreed.
I think the Kickstarters, though, are driving it the other way. Most Kickstarters over the years are having more and more custom bits, special areas, special offers. And we've got a lot of the specialized companies that do make pretty bits for games, partnering with publishers for Kickstarters. So Game Trays is a great example. They're in so many Kickstarter projects where they will make the box, the insert, the little player tray, and things like that in partnership with a publisher in a Kickstarter.
Torben continues. He's a man of many questions. I'm always wondering how localization is handled. There are quite some games I would love to see published in my native language, German, because my friends tend to struggle with translating games on their own. Unfortunately, translation and production of a translated version seems to take up so much money that it just is not worth it. Could you raise the curtain a little on localization of games? And Ignacy, you just talked about this at the top of the show.
The expert.
How you did, yeah, you are the expert. You did 12 languages already on a brand new game, that's a substantial one. So what triggers it? How does it happen? Do you go to the same partners? Give us a high level, because we've talked about localization a lot. Give us a high level view on how it happened there for Imperial.
Yeah, there are these B2B shows that we mention each year: Nuremberg Fair in Germany, New York Toy Fair, of course Essen, of course Gamma Trade Show. So these are these shows when publishers meet with each other, presenting upcoming titles. We always either have a first sales sheet, like the first initial information of what we are preparing. There's the first information about the upcoming title. Then if there is interest, and we hope to create a good sales pitch. If there is an interest, we follow up with the prototype or sample, or these days tabletop simulator files, so the local publisher can play the game. Often we make these with the meeting with the designer of developers, so they can answer all the questions, how they play the game. And then there's a follow-up meeting once again with our business localization manager, who creates information about the offer, when there is a print, when we need to have translated files, what's the price, what's the minimum print run, etc., etc. So this is a process that is long, is difficult. Every publisher on the planet gets offers from every other publisher on the planet. So all these meetings are just offer after offer after offer. And of course, we want our partners to release our game instead of somebody else. So we have some trusted partners that do most of our games because they trust our brand, and then we are looking for the new partners. Basically, it's a full-time job. Bigger publishers have a couple of people in these departments. For us, for Portal Games, we have one person full-time dedicated only to finding partners for our games. And yeah, that's a short explanation of the process.
Yeah, Frank Yeager over at Ludofag Germany once said, language is the bane of this industry, because it's so hard. Once you get that game and it's working, then to convince somebody else to take your game, and then they got to do all the work. And if the game isn't language independent, there's so much work. So, Torben, it's a lot of effort. So a company like Portal, they're really good at this. They find those partners. They work with the partners all the time. So hopefully you'll see their games, obviously, at least out in your language. Torben continues, even though I love spending a good evening with friends in a complex Euro game, I see some major advantages of platforms like Board Game Arena over classic board games. You do not need to set up the game nor put everything away afterwards, saving time. You do not need to meet up for a quick game, and no one needs to get home in the middle of the night. The platform supports you with keeping track of the rounds and the points and the victory point conditions and all of that. I have found myself actively looking for ways to put this additional layers onto some games like this. Most recently example would be Gloomhaven Frosthaven, where at least one full tray of game markers were replaced. He keeps going, but the question is, what is your take on this kind of app and tool in gaming? I am even willing to call it a level of augmented reality on board gamings. So he's talking about putting the layer up on the website so that everybody is using that to game together. So what's everyone's take on physical board games being played together online in apps like on Board Game Arena?
I still tend to keep the two worlds pretty separate in my mind. I like having people together for actual conversations in the same physical space. I like the tactility of playing a game, feeling the pieces, moving them around, shuffling the cards, having the piles. And that could be a generational thing for me. I'm a little older. If I'm in a room with headphones on talking to invisible people who aren't here, I feel very awkward. Even in a situation like this, recording the podcast, I can see your picture. I am still sitting in an empty room talking to myself, and I feel self-conscious. Having said that, there are a number of board game adaptations which I think go into the realm of video games, specifically with Gloomhaven. Gloomhaven has an absolutely amazing app of its own where you can play multiplayer Gloomhaven, but it's a very different experience. Instead of a 2.5 hour scenario, it takes like 20, 30 minutes because all of the shuffling, dealing with bits, record keeping, statistics, they're all done by the computer. It's turned it into a video game. And it's very fun, but it's a very different thing than the board game of Gloomhaven. I think Board Game Arena and to a lesser extent TTS, Tabletopia, they all do this to a certain extent. You get a different feel, you get a different experience, but they overlap a little bit in the Venn diagram. So as an old coot, a curmudgeon, I tend to keep these worlds apart.
We got one positive person on this podcast and two curmudgeons.
I'm a curmudgeon.
You are a curmudgeon. Ignacy, if he understands
curmudgeons.
what that word means, is a curmudgeon as well. Do you know that word?
I feel it.
All right, let's that's a lot of questions for today, and Torben keeps going, so we'll get to more of his questions later. But let's get down now to our play testing segment. So in play testing, we asked a question a while ago because we've been off the air for a while. And last week we did an all news episode.
Someone's been in the ocean.
Both of us have been floating in oceans and flying and stuff. But we're going to go back to our question that we asked you way back on episode 291. And that question was, which I had on the screen. Okay. Have you ever ordered a game from a foreign country in a language you do not speak, or have you ever purchased a game that was only in a foreign language, so you had to find the English rules if available? Corey or Ignacy, did you find any interesting people's takes on this game? We know that Corey constantly buys games from overseas, so he's like,
I do.
He's the target of this.
A lot of games from Japan, a lot of games from Europe, and I have to tell you, I wrote the question and I'm a little embarrassed. I don't think it was a fair question. I didn't fully consider our audience, especially our audience in Europe. There's a lot of people that there is no other choice. The board game industry, for the most part, is an English-driven industry. Games come out in English, and it's a bit of a minority to have a non-English game, and it's a bit of a minority to have a popular English game translated into, say, Icelandic. I was talking with friend Hilmar, who lives in Iceland, and there's almost no games that get translated into his native language. He has no choice other than to play them in English. Now, most of the gaming community in Iceland is ridiculously fluent in English and actually speaks better than I do. But it's a bit of a America-centric problem and an America-centric question, and I definitely got reflections of that in the responses, and I'm a little embarrassed by it.
Well, we talked about the fact that this is mostly an American or English speaking question. In other words, we were asking the English audience because the people across the continent are, I think, constantly ordering games from other countries and then probably having to figure out, and let's face it, not only Americans are like, know one language, and then the Europeans can, like Ignacy, you speak some German. You probably can look at a German rule book, right? And
I
probably
use,
figure it out.
yes. At the beginning of the industry here in Poland, like we are talking like 20 years ago, I was ordering a lot of games from Germany. And yes, I was pretending among my gamers group that I know German. And I was, understanding 3 or 4 words in the sentence, and I was trying to understand how the game works. And it was probably we played on some super wrong rules, but we had fun. So yes, I was not fluent German speaker, but the German games was anything that I could get. So we were buying these games from Germany, and then we were trying to figure out them with the dictionary.
Yeah. I will tell you the very first game that I ever ordered from another country that I could not understand in the least little bit was, in fact, Mysterium from Portal Games.
Oh, I appreciate that.
And
Uh-oh. Corey, you there?
It's a mysterium.
Uh-oh. Can you repeat your answer? You blanked out there for a moment. Uh-oh, Corey's gone again.
oh,
Corey, you there? Okay.
I'm here.
Okay.
My apologies.
Please repeat your answer because you blanked out for a second.
I was just saying that the very first title that I ordered that I couldn't understand in the least little bit was Mysterium, and I still can't pronounce the title in Polish.
Tajemnicze domostwo, very simple.
It's very simple.
Thank you.
Chevy check. Very simple. Very simple. You just forget all the words.
Just like it's spelled.
Just like it's spelled. Of course.
Just it flows.
Yeah.
So I specifically went into the answers for this, and I picked 3 Americans or at least English speakers here to see their answer, because their answer I think is just more geared to what we were saying. And Linda Baldwin says, when a certain well-known publisher, not you, was moving to Florida, interesting, somebody else, he was selling off some of his collection, and I spotted a game in Chinese. Turns out it was Ingenious, which I knew how to play anyway, so I took it off his hands. Still got it. I also bought a German copy of Sticklin long before it was available in English. You've probably played my copy. Yes, I have played your copy, and I own a copy of Sticklin. Greg Senko says, yes, when Baron Park came out, I was on a wild goose chase to find it here in the States, but repeatedly came up empty. Finally, I ordered it from Amazon Deutschland and scraped up the English rules later. No regrets. And finally, Vincenzo Alvarello, good friend. I've bought Sticklin, another Sticklin player, in a German edition since we were well after the U.S. printing and the newest hadn't happened. I also picked up Nokosu Dice. I played that recently, which was only from Japan, but did have English rules, what I can see, and I can't have enough trick takers. When I was in Spain walking around Madrid, if I saw a game store, I stopped by most of the stores. There were English versions or stuff that was available. I bought games in Paris. I bought a game in Paris. It had English rules in it, but because they had an English section as well. So yeah, so all the Americans that I just read, and I just picked the first 3 that I happen to see, they're buying games in other countries. Very interesting. So what do we have for the next question, Corey? You asked it again.
Yeah, I like this one a lot. I am a huge fan of mechanisms. Stephen and I often argue he's more of a theme guy. I'm more of a mechanism guy in board games. So I was wondering, what board game mechanism do you think is just absolutely criminally underutilized? What fantastic mechanism do you not see enough?
Yeah, it's a great question, because we all have our favorite things, but a lot of our favorite things are utilized a lot. That's how they became our favorite things.
Sure.
Anybody want to take first on their game?
I have embarrassing answer.
Embarrassing answer. You're very embarrassing to begin with. So go right ahead.
The Pop-O-Matic, the Trouble Pop-O-Matic.
I will pick the game that Portal Games published, and I have to admit that when we were doing the game, I was pretty sure that there'll be a lot of designers who will pick this mechanism, and we will see a lot of games using this mechanism. It didn't happen. And the mechanism I'm mentioning is mechanism of the battles in Cry Havoc. In Cry Havoc, there is a super smart mechanism that when you fight the battle, You are not fighting to kill enemy, but you have a small board with the three objectives. If you want to kill them, if you want to take control over the region, or if you want to imprison them. And you are spending your troops on these three objectives. And therefore, each battle is super interesting in terms of the tactics and strategy, because it is not just let's roll dice and see who killed more miniatures. It is how I want to use my miniatures in these three different objectives. It's brilliant, it's sleek, fast, very deep in terms of the strategy, and no one used this mechanism in the upcoming following game. So I'm very, very surprised.
I think there's a similar mechanism in Rising Sun.
Yes,
where
I talked
you
with Eric.
piece
Yes,
it
I talked.
apart.
Yes,
Yeah.
I talked with Eric Lang about that because he was super, air quotes, super angry because when he designed Rising Sun, he didn't know about the Cry Havoc, and Cry Havoc was released before Rising Sun, and
Exactly.
Eric told me, "I'm so angry at you, Ignas. Now everybody will tell that I stole this idea from you, and I came up with this by myself." But exactly, these two games use this mechanism, and no other game uses that, and it is, as you said, criminally underutilized.
That's
Criminally. I love that. I love that. I used to say that, or somebody said, and I used it after that, that when Dominion came out, it has a criminal amount of shuffling in the game, right? Because you're constantly shuffling, but now we're used to that in deck builders. And if you don't like it, if you don't want your cards to get ruined, you sleep them. I don't give a, I just do it. So I don't know, it's hard because I'm sure that I could think of one if I thought hard enough. And the only one that kind of comes to mind is like paragraph driven games. I love them because it's all about the theme, Tales of the Arabian Nights, and the soon 2024 to be released Tales of the Arthurian Knights by Andrew Parks in this case will be released. I love those kind of games. Again, it's not about who's winning those games. They can have, you can have a winner, of course, in that game. It's really about that story that you finally get to as it unfolds, and especially in the new Tales of Arthurian Knights, he's got plot that goes over eras and stuff like that. So
yeah,
I'm excited about that, and in general, that would be my answer. Paragraph driven, story driven.
I really dig games where you're not allowed to change the order of your cards. You have to deal with the cards in the order they come up.
Bonanza and Photographer.
Yep, and Crass Carrier, Scout, Luxor. I really like
Hanabi,
having the setup in front of you, and you have to deal with it as given and figure out unique ways to deal with it.
Right, but there's quite a few of them, so it's not criminally underutilized. Maybe. I mean, it definitely has not as many. Yeah, I agree. It's funny how hard it is for people to do that. Like you teach them Scout, and immediately they want to like start pushing their card. Like,
it's the very first thing you say. Don't
change the order of the cards. You never will change it. Anyway, what do you guys out there think? Ignacy right now, if he remembers how to do it, since he hasn't done it in so long, is going to put this question out there in the BGG guild. I've had to do it all these times. He'll try to do it, because in the meantime, as he does that, go answer the question, because it's a good one. Thank you, Corey, for that. Let me get over to the final scoring.
Dun, dun, dun.
Thank you so much for listening. Help us spread the word about this podcast by telling your friends to download Board Games Insider wherever they like to get their podcasts, or you can watch Board Games Insider on the Podfather of Gaming YouTube channel. Want to be part of this podcast? You can ask us questions for our strategy and tactics segment by posting them in the correct thread in our guild on Board Game Geek, or also answer our question to you from our play testing segment by going to the guild on Board Game Geek and looking for the thread with this episode's question. Our websites are portalgamesus.com, podfathergaming.com, and dicetowerdish.com. We're all over social media. Please interact with us on Facebook. Please like our pages, which are /BoardGamesInsider, /PortalGamesUS, and /PodfatherGaming. You can also speak directly to Ignacy, Corey, and Steven on Twitter and Instagram. It's @PortalGamesUS, @PodfatherGaming, @DicetowerDish, and @DicetowerNow. The active YouTube channels are Portal Games Movies and the Podfather of Gaming, and Above Board TV. Watch the sharks swimming in the drop that just came out. And on TikTok for Ignacy, it's Portal Games US. We would really love to see you in person at an upcoming convention. See Corey and I at BGG Con very soon, and PAX right after that. And hopefully, Ignacy, we're going to hook up with you at a convention in early 2024. Please come up to us, talk to us. That's all important to us. Board Games Insider is professionally edited by Joshua Bowman from Tabletop Submarine Podcast. If you want your podcast edited by Joshua, you can reach out to him at tabletopsubmarine@gmail.com. And that great voice you hear during the intro, outro, and in-between segments is that of Ray Greenlee. He can be contacted to do voiceover work at raygreenleevoiceover.com. Any news to announce, guys? Anything special for those people who stick it out to the very end for us? I don't hear anything. No.
Let's just throw out there. BGG,
Thank you for being with us.
PAX, come visit.
Yeah. I
Come
mean,
bring us goodies.
sorry for my raspy voice. I'm recovering from a cold. But yeah, please come and hang out with us. If you see Corey or I at BGG Con or PAX, if you don't say hello, we'll know it. Come say hello to us. All right, everybody. Take care. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Thank you.
See you later, everyone.